Tensions escalate in southern Lebanon as Israel extends its occupation beyond the ceasefire deadline, defying international agreements. Lebanon's leaders, including President Joseph Aoun, call for an immediate Israeli withdrawal to protect sovereignty and maintain regional stability. Stay tuned to Qnews for special coverage on the latest developments in Lebanon.
كل المستهدفين هن مدنيين.
وضع شيء مرعب، شيء بخوف.
The Lebanese Ministry of Health has reported that Israeli attacks on southern towns have claimed 15 lives and injured 83 others. It added that 11 people were killed and 9 injured in Hola, with the wounded receiving treatment at Tibnin, a governmental hospital. Additionally, the ministry confirmed in its statement that 8 people were injured in Kafr Kalla and transported to Marjayoun government. Additionally, 5 people were injured in Maroun al-Ras. Following a statement from the Lebanese Ministry of Health, the United Nations Special Coordinator for Lebanon, in a joint statement with the head of the United Nations Peacekeeping Mission, he has said that conditions are not yet in place for the safe return of citizens to their villages along the blue line on the deadline day for Israel's withdrawal under a ceasefire deal. Israel's military has not withdrawn its troops from southern Lebanon, even as many displaced people return to their southern towns. This took place despite the expiration of the 60-day deadline for Israeli-Hezbollah ceasefire agreement, according to Israeli media. Following the agreement, which was mediated by the United States and France, Israel has continued conducting ground maneuvers. The military issued warnings and set up barriers to prevent people from returning to their villages. Israel's prolonged occupation of southern Lebanon past the ceasefire deadline has escalated regional tensions and diplomatic urgency.
Israel's decision to extend its occupation of southern Lebanon beyond this 60-day deadline has reignited tensions in the region. The ceasefire agreement, brokered by France and the United States, required a full withdrawal of Israeli forces and the deployment of Lebanese army and United Nations peacekeeping forces along the border. However, the Israeli occupation forces' failure to comply with the agreement has drawn sharp criticism from Lebanon, Hezbollah, and the international community. Lebanese President Joseph Aoun has firmly asserted that Israeli forces must withdraw from the south within the deadline set by the agreement. Aoun has reportedly been in contact with the United States and French officials, urging them to pressure Israel to honor its commitment and complete the withdrawal within the stipulated time frame. Hezbollah has issued strong warnings, labeling any delay beyond the agreed-upon deadline as both unacceptable and a violation of Lebanon's sovereignty. Meanwhile, the Lebanese army, though prepared, is facing significant challenges due to the ongoing Israeli presence and the complexities it has introduced. The international community, including France and the United Nations, has voiced concern over Israel's actions. Despite this, Israel maintains that its withdrawal is contingent upon the full deployment of the Lebanese army, which it claims has been delayed. As tensions escalate, the situation remains precarious, with the Lebanese government continuing to push for a complete and immediate end to the Israeli occupation.
For further analysis on the current situation in Lebanon amid the Israeli violations of the ceasefire agreement, we're joined from Beirut by political analyst Khalid Zainuddin. Welcome, sir, to Qnews. Sir, how do you assess the humanitarian impact of Israel's continued military occupation of southern Lebanese territories beyond the 60-day deadline?
Good afternoon. Excuse me, I would like to correct the name. Khalid Zainuddin, not Khalid Zainuddin.
Khalid Zainuddin.
Sir, I'll repeat the question again because apparently you didn't hear the question well. Sir, how do you assess the humanitarian impact of Israel's continued military occupation of southern Lebanese territories beyond the 60-day deadline?
Good evening to you, dear viewers.
تصحيحا للاسم خالد زين الدين وليس عز الدين. فيما يتعلق فيما يحصل في
regarding what's happening in the southern Lebanese territory and the ceasefire agreed upon between Lebanon and Israel with U.S. sponsorship and an international cover. Now we see the Israeli side violating the ceasefire agreement, unable to dismantle the military capabilities of Hezbollah, and which is still posing a military threat on the southern Lebanese territory, which is a further threat to the populations in the north. We have seen today attacks and Lebanese martyrs and injured among civilians and military forces, martyrs of this nation. So today the international community is facing a test to impose the commitment on Israel under the agreement to withdraw from the Lebanese territory and to leave the way to the national Lebanese forces represented in the army to be deployed across the Lebanese territories, especially in the south.
Sir, what are the implications of the targeting of Lebanese civilians and army soldiers attempting to return to their border villages and towns by the Israeli occupation forces?
Today we have seen civilian Lebanese placing confidence in the Lebanese army to ensure their protection against the occupier in the Lebanese territory, to secure the return with stability and security to their lands and properties. Today, the Lebanese, especially those who have lands in the south, are affected as they suffer more and more under the attacks they have been suffering since the start of this war. They had to leave everything behind in the south and evacuate to a safer refuge from the Israeli violent attacks on southern Lebanon. Those unarmed civilians face the failure of the international community to impose a commitment on Israel, as the Lebanese army is trying its best to protect these civilian populations, but Israel is taking all the international support and arms and weapons. The Lebanese army now is trying to face all of that with the unarmed civilian population and waiting for the Israeli army to allow them to go back to their lands. Now we face the economic and military problems affecting these civilian populations.
Sir, how significant is the joint UN statement regarding unsafe conditions for returning displaced civilians?
عفوا هل يمكن إعادة السؤال؟ لم أسمع.
How significant, sir, is the joint UN statement regarding unsafe conditions for returning displaced civilians or citizens, sir?
طبعا فيما يتعلق في الأمم المتحدة.
Regarding the joint statement by the UN, it is facing a test. The statement was very clear for self-restraint and the coordination role played by the UN between the Israeli forces and the Lebanese army to alleviate the tension and to reorganize the return of the population to their lands. The UN is playing an integral part in this regard, and it was very clear that it will not go easy on this agreement and will oblige all parties to commit to stability in the south. It's now facing another test to be just, to be the international umbrella for the world, to prevail stability for peoples and nations to obtain the rights facing occupation or invaders. Now the UN has to impose its will to use all kinds of pressure on Israel to allow the Lebanese population to go back to their lands and to force the Israeli army to withdraw, committing to all in UN resolutions as it's a Lebanese land. And the national and judiciary Lebanese institutions are the only authorities who have the power over their land.
Sir, could the situation escalate into a broader conflict given the current tensions and, of course, the global outrage that's taking place today?
I don't think we're gonna go back to open war again between Lebanon and Israel, because now we have international Arab and Gulf cover committing to reconstruction and reinforcing security and peace. It is also a test to the Arab world and the GCC and for the USA and France and all the states and entities who supported electing a new president and moved towards restoring stability to the constitutional Lebanese institutions. A call for an open war will lead us to a new Israeli violation that only aims to postpone their withdrawal from Lebanese lands, but this is inevitable. We have seen them attacking populations and properties and green areas as they need to create a buffer zone to secure their powers.
Sir, what diplomatic measures can Lebanon pursue to ensure compliance with the ceasefire agreement?
Regarding the Lebanese state and the diplomatic procedures, they shall form a Lebanese government, an effective one, as a president and the minister and the Minister of Foreign Affairs shall move towards a series of international communications and Arab and Gulf meetings in order to reinforce this truth and turn it into a permanent agreement, ensuring the stability and security of Lebanon under the sponsorship of the United Nations Security Council and the regions of ensuring the common interests, turning this temporary fragile agreement into a permanent serious one to ensure the safety and security of the southern Lebanon lands, which will lead to ensuring the national Arab security
طبعا فقط في من خلال التعاون.
Of course, only through cooperation and addressing disagreements between partners and political coalitions, especially different factions in Lebanon, to assume their responsibility, their humanitarian and political responsibility to work out their disagreements.
That was political analyst Khalida Zainuddin. Thank you very much, sir, for joining us here on Qnews. Thank you very much for your insights and informative knowledge. And we move on with Lebanese caretaker Prime Minister Naguib Mikati, who has issued a statement expressing solidarity with the people of the southern region of Lebanon, who showed unwavering resilience despite the ongoing Israeli threats. He called on the countries that sponsored the ceasefire agreement to assume their responsibilities in deterring aggression and compelling the Israeli forces to withdraw from the occupied territories. Mikati also stated that the Lebanese government has directly communicated this to the concerned parties, warning that any failure to adhere to the ceasefire agreement and implement UN Resolution 1701 will have severe consequences. Lebanese Speaker Nabih Berri has condemned the Israelis' continued violation of Lebanon's sovereignty following the killing and wounding of civilians in southern Lebanon towns such as Mais el-Gabal and Kafr Killa, or rather Kalla. He called for immediate international action to force Israel to withdraw from the Lebanese territories it still occupies. Berri praised the southern Lebanese people's unwavering resistance and highlighted their deep national loyalty, emphasizing that their sacrifices reflect the strength and resilience of Lebanon. The French presidency has announced that French President Emmanuel Macron urged Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to withdraw all remaining Israeli forces still deployed in Lebanon. According to the statement, Macron stressed the importance of fully adhering to international agreements and ensuring the complete implementations of the ceasefire terms. And for further analysis on the current situation in Lebanon after the latest statements by Lebanese officials today, we're joined from Beirut by strategic political analyst Abdullah Nahimi. Welcome to Qnews, sir. What strategic challenges does Lebanon face in ensuring sovereignty over its border towns in light of Israel's continued occupation of southern Lebanese towns, sir?
Of course, after the 1701 resolution that should have been implemented to the letter, we know there is a difficulty in implementing it so fast, especially after the guarantee that is obstacling the Lebanese army to be deployed in the south after following the violent attacks waged by the Israeli army. We know that the USA is the sponsor of this agreement and it is a guarantor for this agreement for the Lebanese state and for the Israeli forces. We are aware that the president and the Lebanese leadership, including Hezbollah, approved the resolution 1701, but there are so many obstacles on the ground, including that the Lebanese army today took a lot of time to get ready and prepare to cover the villages where the Israeli forces has withdrawn. But the Israeli presence in the occupied south so far is a result for the Israeli violation, as they have the excuse of Hezbollah tunnels and the Hezbollah presence as they violate civilian properties.
Sir, how
keep,
critical is President Joseph Aoun's call for restraint in managing escalating tensions in the south, sir?
It's natural that President Aoun calls upon the international community, especially that there was a communication between him and President Macron, the French president. He, of course, communicated also with the five-person committee. They are the sponsors of this agreement. Of course, there was an intervention to contain the situation and to stop any further escalation and to stop the fall of this agreement between Lebanon and Israel, because we are aware that now there is a lot of pressure being applied on all parties. Hezbollah is sending individuals to confront the Israeli forces. Hezbollah as well is placing the Lebanese populations in confrontation with the Israeli forces, which is wrong, because now we have Lebanese power, we have Lebanese military that we shall depend on to defend its population. We have seen today the Lebanese army. You have seen the village of Ait al-Shab. Israel has withdrew 2 days ago, but the Israeli army was unable to be deployed there because there is a lot of land mines and rockets that has not been exploded yet, which obstacles the direct deployment of the Lebanese army. Today, as the Hezbollah, when you allow people to enter these dangerous villages, you risk the lives of innocent people. We have 22 martyrs today and a lot of injured. Who's responsible? Who's held accountable for these people? Now we create a direct confrontation between civilians and Israeli forces, which obstacles the Lebanese army deployment. What's happening now is pressure on the Lebanese government by Hezbollah and the Amal movement, because they are creating an obstacle for the completion of the government formation.
Okay, sir, how can Lebanon effectively balance immediate reconstruction efforts with ongoing security concerns?
Naturally, the international community was very clear, and the foreign affairs minister of Saudi Arabia and Kuwait and the international community were very clear that the government of Lebanon will be formed of specialists with no political interventions for the reconstruction of Lebanon. If there is no government with the required form, there will be no reconstruction and chaos will prevail southern Lebanon, which is what the Israeli forces are taking advantage of, being on the borders, because they have this excuse of not forming a Lebanese government as a guarantee. They need a government as a guarantee to withdraw from South Lebanon. So far, we do not have a government, and chaos is still ongoing.
Okay, sir, can Lebanon
operating, demonstrating the inability of the Lebanese state to deploy the Lebanese army. Of course, all of these are excuses for the Israeli forces to remain on the borders and in southern Lebanon. This five committee is not working and operating properly, as Israel has reported to the US that they will hold the agreement or hold the withdrawal for 1 more month till the government is formed. If this Lebanese government was formed last week, Israel would have withdrawn. But now with all of these obstacles, Israel has the excuse to stay on Lebanese territories, and what held off the formation of the government is all what's creating the problem and the remaining of the Israeli
Sir, I'm running out
army.
of time and I have to wrap up this episode. I think knowledge sides, of course. That was strategic political analyst Abdullah Nahimi. Thank you very much for joining us here on Q News, sir. This brings us to the end of our special coverage on Lebanon for tonight. Remember to stay updated by following Q News on YouTube, Facebook, X, Instagram and TikTok at Q News EG for latest developments. Thank you for watching.